So I know incidents like this, I mean, you mentioned, and switching gears now back to Alex Bowman and kind of conversations, but rivalries do kind of start from somewhere, right? So how does this moment, and what you mentioned, like some of the stuff from before, how does this kind of set a base for some of that? Not necessarily saying this in general, but incidents like this.
Well, I think it's one brick but there's a long way to go. Alex has a lot of runway before anybody would really think he's out just driving erratically. That's just not the kind of guy he is. You meet his dad, and that's just very, very quiet. And Alex is a little bit louder than Mr. Bowman, but that's a very low bar because that's just how he was raised. So I think if they go to the Roval and the 12 spins off the 48's bumper, now we have an issue. But he's got some room.
Right, and as a guy who maybe didn't keep it under control all the time, they can get way out of hand. And you know how this goes. We've all seen it. I've been a part of it, and I think that I don't see anything right now that looks like total chaos.
This is what you're talking about, Carl?
Yeah. I don't know if this was part of all of it.
Yeah.
I was along for the ride there, but then I went ahead later on. Had to finish the race. And I made some real conscious decisions. This was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my career, was to pull back in the garage, go back out and think, oh, I'm going to wreck them. When I looked in my mirror and saw this, it was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. But I didn't learn my lesson. Because then I went ahead and did this. And it's just, you can't, as a driver, I can only speak for me, when this started to affect my performance, it's bad.
Because you were thinking about that more than you were thinking about finishing.
You can't do that. And I let myself do that a couple times in my career, and it was no good. You've got to be able to separate. Some guys are really good at that. Some guys like myself, it took a while.
I think
that was Brad Keselowski with Carl back in the day. They had a notorious rivalry.
And I think talking about Bowman, if Bowman had gotten into that with, like, say, Bubba Wallace, because Bubba and him got into it at Chicago, and that really messed up his race, then that might lead to something else. But when it's with different guys, I think it takes longer to build those kind of animosities.
And that push might not have gone bad. Everything could have worked. It wasn't egregious. It wasn't just way out of line from the outside.
Carl, you said something interesting, like you were thinking about the rivalry more than anything. Like, you recently kind of experienced this whole thing when you're inside those cars and you're around Denny Hamlin, because that was sort of one that we followed a lot. Do you think about that? Like, I got to cross my T's and dot my I's, or however we describe it?
Well,
does it change the way that you race in the car?
Like Carl, I haven't learned my lesson, and my rivalries started like early on at a young age, when like other drivers would come up to me and realize like, oh, they couldn't confront me after the race because I was 15 years old and they're 30, and so tough. Once I turned 18, I was like, oh boy, now they're not going to stop when they get to me. So I've had that along the way, but yeah, with like my stuff with Denny. At first it was intentional to move him here. That was an intentional move. I didn't know he was going to go up and crash. We were early in the Gen 7 car, and I think he overcorrected, but I hit him way too hard. And then Atlanta was just a moment where, right here, where I just decided not to lift when I was tight. My car was already torn up, and then he took it back out on me here at Pocono and took this win from us. But I felt like that was fair. I felt like that I deserved that, and I learned from that. And we did. We got to a point where we raced really well. Joey Logano and I in 2021 had off the camera. Each of us weren't running really fast that year. We were in like 13th place, racing each other terrible at like Kansas and Michigan, a few places, and we had a long talk on pit road. After that, we've been great. We're super aggressive. Haven't touched each other since.
Need it for the sport, though. That is great for the sport.
And you know the best way to get back at a rival?
What's that?
Beat him.
Beat him. That's right.
My dad told me that from the time I was 12 years old.
That's right.
You know what? I'd be like, I'm like 12 years old. I want to go fight. And he's like, no, we're just going to go beat him. Yeah.
So how, you know what? Let's remind everybody how you did beat Denny Hamlin at your own game.
Yes,
your own
I love this.
The Hail Melon, everybody.
One more shot for playoff drivers at Martinsville Speedway.
Gotta get them? Yeah, I gotta get them. These two.
You put the car against the wall, wide open.
Chastain did a video game move. Holy hell. I guess it does work. You made the transfer, man. Holy. Did you see that? Dude, he held it wide open all the way through the corner. I could not believe it.
The one Hail Mary defense and got it.
I thought, why not? We live by why not.
Okay, yeah, I don't care who you are. Like, I
amazing.
saw that. Somebody's like, did you see what happened? I'm like, what are you talking about? I saw it, and I was simultaneously, like, blown away, number one. Second, so jealous that I didn't do that. And it was the cool. If you like sports, if you like people just going for it, that is it. I'm like, who is this dude? Who is Ross Chastain? And then the why not? It made my whole, I had a great week where I was thinking, why not? That's what Ross says. Why not? I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, so the why not piece is actually starts out with a sad story of coming out of high school. Two of my best friends, Cody Moran and Shane Luster, were in a car crash. Cody got ejected, broke his neck. He'll never walk again probably. So out of that, in the hospital, they came up with a merchandise brand, a lifestyle brand, if you will, and had like a sleeve of like 12 hats made, like 12 Richardson 112, like the trucker hats we all wore, and started selling them. And because Cody's life changed that night. Shane walked away from the car crash totally fine. Cody will never walk again. And so they lived, and we lived through high school, and ever since with the motto of like, hey, you want to go on the boat? Why not? Hey, you want to drink a beer? Why not? And so they've grown that brand, and I've watched from afar, and it's a lifestyle. It's a mentality that I have, and their hats and shirts on their brand really, let me wear it on my head, what I'm feeling inside.
Do you have one of these? I want one of these hats.
We'll get you some hats.
Dude, you just said it. I mean, we are all blessed with this amazing thing that is life in this world, and to say why not and go live it is beautiful, man.
So
Good
did
job,
you
dude.
think in that car, as you were getting ready to make that move, was that what went through Ross Chastain's mind? Why not? Let's just do this?
So when I do think through things, whether it's slow
When I do.
The moment.
Quote of the day.
but like when when it's slow in business or something, but in those high-paced moments where it's right now, it was like 11 or 12 seconds from the moment I thought of it coming up turn 4 when we took the white to when I did it into turn 3. I kept saying, why not? And I didn't have a single reason, which actually scares me more. That's what's scary is I couldn't think of one. I mean, I thought about the gate off turn 4. It's safe. I thought about the catch fence. If I hit it, it's safe. I thought, line it up with the wall. Do not turn in and cut my angle. And the fifth gear pull was a total accident. That was just the racer and me knowing I was about to hit the chip, and I pulled 5th.